Okay, so I'm using this yarn that I've been using for weeks, so it's really nice for a beanie. We're gonna need a measuring tape, a stitch marker, just one is fine. You're gonna also need scissors. So I'm gonna be using 4 double pointed knitting needles, and I'm also gonna need my circular knitting needle, and you might need like a jumbo needle here for tying in the loose bits. So first we're going to start off by making a loop and placing it on our small circular knitting needle. And then I'm going to cast on 60 stitches. So 60 fits really good for my head size, and this yarn has a lot of stretch, so I don't need any more. I'm gonna push these stitches around so that they're all around my circular knitting needle, and then I'm gonna start to make sure that they're not tangled because it can get tangled here and we don't want that. So I'm gonna start off by doing a regular knit stitch, okay? So we're just gonna go underneath that stitch like so, wrap it around, and pull it forward. I'm also not like a professional at knitting, so please, if I get anything wrong, just like help me. Okay, so I'm just gonna do regular knit stitch again, wrap around, and pull it forward. Okay, so I just completed the first row of the regular knit stitches, and see this little tail that we'll have at the end here? That's indicating the back of our work, so we know we're starting a new row once we reach there. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay, I'm gonna show you the hat that I already made. And what we're going to do is we need to make this rim area. So we want it to be quite high. You can always adjust this. You can make it shorter or higher. So we have 3 inches, and then I folded it, and then we also have the front of it, which is 3 inches. So we're going to knit up 6 inches, okay? Because when we fold the rim in half, it's going to be 3 inches. So I've knitted the 6 inches here. So this is where you want to be, and that's perfect. So now we're going to kind of fold the rim upwards. So at the back of my work, I'm going to fold it right to where my needles are so that we're just starting directly from the back, and that's exactly what we want, okay? Just makes it easy. So I'm just going to go in and fold it downward so that everything will be easier to attach it, okay? So once I've had that, we want to make sure that we're attaching it where the knit stitches are straight. We don't want to slant them, so I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So you're going to carry over 1 stitch onto the right needle, then you're going to go across into what we folded up, okay? So there's going to be no increases here. We have to be super careful on what we're attaching, but I'll show you guys a method. So I'm going to move that stitch over to my right needle. Then I'm going to turn my work so I can face the inside and see where that knit stitch aligns, because we are attaching that knit stitch with the knit stitch on our right needle. I'm going to keep my finger there, turn my work back the correct way, and I'm going to go underneath the second loop, okay? I'm going to wrap the yarn that is attached to my yarn ball around my needle, and I'm going to pull it under that 1 loop, and then I'm going to pull it over the front loop, and that attaches it, and it makes me know that I'm attaching this part like straight on, okay? Because we don't want to like, make it slanted or be doing unintentional decreases. We started with 60 stitches, we want to end with 60 stitches. So I'm just going to keep going and attaching from the front of the beanie now to the inside so that everything looks good, okay? And then I'll show you guys a little trick that I learned on the way. So now that I have attached, you can see the knit stitches are straight on, which is perfect, and this is the inside, so it's all looking very good and even. Now that little tail that we had, we're gonna actually, before we fully close it off, we're going to just put our stitch marker where the tail is to indicate where the back panel is. We're going to need to know where the back starts and ends, okay? But now we're going to take this little tail and stick it into this little beanie pocket that we are creating here. Just going to stick it in there. It's just a little way that you don't have to tie it in after. And I'm at the back now. I fully attached it, and now I'm just going to knit in the round, okay? And we're going to keep knitting in the round until it's 6 inches. I'm going to show you. So from the top of my hat to my ear, where I want my beanie to stop, is 8 inches. And then from the middle of my head to where I want my beanie to stop in the front is also 8 inches. So my beanie has to be 8 inches tall at the end, but for now we need to stop at 6 inches because the other 2 inches will be where we're decreasing the beanie, okay? So I'm going to now just knit in the round. So that means that I'm just going to knit until it gets 6 inches tall. just like so, okay? So now my beanie is 6 inches tall, which is perfect, and now I'm going to show you guys how to decrease. So from the back of my panel, okay, we have our little stitch marker. I'm about 3 stitches past the stitch marker, which is fine. So 3, I'm going to knit 4, I'm going to knit 5, knit 6, and then I'm going to decrease on the 7th. So that means I'm going to combine 2 stitches together and then wrap them around the yarn around my needle and pull it forward. So we just did a decrease, okay? So this whole row and the rows coming after it will be, you're gonna knit 6, decrease on the 7th, then you're gonna do a regular knit stitch, then you're going to do knit 6, decrease on the 7th. You're gonna keep doing that until your beanie is really small. So now I just finished the decrease row, and now I'm just going to go do regular knit stitches all the way around. So yeah, a regular knit row, a decrease row, a regular knit row, a decrease row. Now that my beanie is super small at the top, which is what we want, but it's getting harder to knit it in the circular needle, so we're going to grab our pointed ended, or double pointed needles, and we're going to transfer these stitches onto the needles. I put about like 6 to 7 stitches on one needle, and then I'll stop, grab another needle, and place like about the same 5 to 6 stitches on that second needle, because it's just going to make it easier if they're kind of all distributed evenly, like so. I'm going to grab my measuring tape and just show you guys how open the top of my hat is. So it's 3 inches. So I'm just going to now going to kind of reference the stitch marker where it's at, but really just from now on, we just want to start doing, we are going to knit 4 stitches and decrease on the 5th. So knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, knit 4, and then decrease on the 5th. So that means combining 2 stitches together and knitting them together. Then I transfer that last loop on my other pointed needles, and then we're gonna just maneuver it around and kind of work clockwise, okay? I'm not the best with these double pointed needles. I'm very new at them, so if you do have another method, please feel free to use it. But just know that right now we are doing knitting 4 and decreasing on the 5th stitch. That's the method for right now. Sometimes I did it a bit sooner, but it's okay. Just roughly do that. Okay, so I've been going for a while now. I'm gonna do a couple more decrease rows and then show you guys next steps. Once the hole on the top of my hat is very small, like 1 inch, I'm gonna then start to transfer some of these stitches onto one. So I have 3 on this one needle, so I'm just gonna transfer them onto the other needle. And that's gonna allow for me to only need 2 knitting needles right now, double pointed needles. So what I'm going to do is kind of like cast off right now, because we don't need any more decreases. It's really hard to knit these stitches. So I'm going to knit 1. It's kind of hard with my fluffy yarn, but then I'm going to knit 2. And then I'm going to carry that first loop or that first stitch over that second stitch to cast off, okay? So I'm going to knit another one, and then I'm going to grab that loop and put it over. So that's how we're going to cast off. And I'm going to do that all the way until those stitches are off. And then I'm going to have that one loop on that needle. I'm going to transfer it to the second free needle and then pull that off. And then I'm going to turn my work so that I'm still working clockwise. So I have to push those stitches down as well. And then I'm going to cast off these stitches as well. So kind of, it's gonna be really tight if you're using these needles, but it's possible, okay? So I'm just gonna go again. I already have 1 loop on my needle, so I'm gonna just knit 1, and then I'm gonna take this first stitch and throw it over the second, and I'm gonna repeat that until all the stitches are off and I only have 1 loop on my needle, like this, okay? So let's just take a look at what we have here. The circle is very small at the top of the hat, which is perfect, and it looks like a beanie shape, which I love. So now what we're gonna do is, if you have a crochet hook, you can just weave these together, but I'll show you what to do with the needles in case you don't. So I'm going to just go into like one of those stitches that we just casted off, okay? Then I'm gonna put that 1 loop on my knitting needle, okay, that we had left over, just like so. That is attached to my yarn ball, and then I'm gonna take it under that loop, if that makes sense. So now with that one loop, I'm gonna poke into the top of the other stitch. I'm gonna wrap that yarn around, pull through and pull through. So we're kind of like weaving the top of the hat, the top of the beanie shut, okay? So anywhere where you will see a hole, so see this like hole right here, we need to weave that shut. So I'm just going to turn my work around, go through the top of one of those stitches there, wrap it around, and then I'm gonna pull through there and then pull through that one loop, okay? So I'm gonna keep doing that until my beanie looks fully shut and is shut, because we don't want air coming from the top of our beanie after we put in so much work. Once that's done, I'm gonna cut that yarn off, and just like so. Now grab your jumbo thread, needle, sorry, and just kind of poke it back in. You can also use a crochet hook. I do, because I have crochet hooks here, but if you don't, you can use this needle and just kind of bring it from the top of your hat to the inside of your hat, like so, to bring in that last stitch. Pull it a bit, make sure it's tight and make sure it looks good, and then I'm just gonna weave this through a little bit just to make sure it's secure in the inside of the beanie. I actually really like this jumbo needle. I was given it in one of my orders from Hobby Yarn. Then I'm going to make a couple more loops just to make sure it's triple secure, and then cut it off, and then turn my beanie the correct way, remove that one stitch marker, and you have done it. You have made this amazing beanie. I love this knitted project. I've made like 3 beanies in like a week or so, so I had to make this tutorial for you guys. It's a good one to have. So thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, because I have a lot of goodies on the way, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy.